And right now, people from across the Cape Fear are gathering at Williston Middle School in Wilmington to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. WWAY's Amanda Fitzpatrick is there live with what's happening. Amanda, tell us about the commemoration.
Hi, Randy. You know, it was 50 years ago today that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. And many people don't know that Dr. King was actually supposed to be here in Wilmington before that happened. He was scheduled to come to Wilmington, which is why today is such a major significance in history. Right now, I have a living legend, I would like to say, Mr. Joseph McNeil, a Wilmington native, but also you may remember him. He was one of the activists back in 1960s who sat at the Woolworth counter and refused to get at one of the Greensboro Four. Mr. McNeil, we're here at Williston Middle School where we know Dr. King was supposed to be so many years ago. What is the significance of today for people?
This evening is going to prove to be a significant part of our growth and maturity in the civil rights era. It's more than just a commemoration of the things that Dr. King did that were meaningful, but the trials for him and the thousands of others who participated to make sure that all of us can live with dignity and justice.
And we thank you, sir, for what you've done for us so much. So many of us are so grateful for that. When you think about that day in 1960, again, the protests, how brave you were to take that on, what has changed when you look at what's happening today? And you think about what you did to get people where they are today?
I can tell you the similarities, and that's what's emerged recently is the role of youth and how they influence action. And we see a lot of youth influence action in places like Florida or Charleston, South Carolina, where we've had some very painful deaths. But young people make this happen. It's just like 50 years ago, it was young people who sat at the lunch counters. Again, we look forward to doing that kind of thing.
And any parting words you'd like to share with those that are watching to keep King's legacy living on?
Keep the faith. We've gone too far to turn back, so we've got to make what we have work, all of us.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. McNeil. I want to chat with you a little bit later, too, as well. You know, we are here at Williston Middle School. It used to be high school at the time. And so many are coming out today. They're wearing their black and gold in honor of Dr. King. But there was also an event that happened earlier this morning. We're going to show you some video from that event as well. WWY's Jenna Cruzina was there as many people were able to come together and pay their respects. Schools from across the country and New Hanover County as well participated in the assembly that honored the work of Dr. King. The event not only celebrated Dr. King, but it was a learning experience for students to share the importance of Wilmington and how the slain civil rights leader was scheduled to come to Williston again the day that he died. Now, one student who won the I've Been to the Mountaintop essay was able to talk about how they hope to carry out his legacy.
His legacy means to me that he inspired a lot of people to do the right thing. And I think that if he came to the Williston School, that he would have made a lot of peacemakers here, and there would be no bullies like how much there is today.
Students also got a lesson about bullying, tolerance, and unity that tied back to Dr. King's messages. Coming up tonight on Good Evening Wilmington, hear more from students and the district attorney about today's meeting. And again, we are here with Joseph McNeil at Williston Middle School. Today we'll again honor and commemorate Dr. King on the 50-year anniversary of his assassination. We are all coming together today to pay our respects. Governor Cooper will be here. I've already seen District Attorney Ben David, Pastor Reverend Barber, and again, the one and only Joseph McNeil. We thank you so much, sir. We're going to get some interviews with you to say for later for sure. All right, guys, we'll be back out here with you for Good Evening Wilmington. Back to you, Randy.
And it has been 50 years since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. He was supposed to be in Wilmington on that fateful day. To commemorate his death, people are gathering at Williston Middle School tonight. Our own Amanda Fitzpatrick is live with why Williston is significant and the connection Dr. King had to the port city. Amanda?
Brandy, it is so hard to believe that it's been 50 years since Dr. King was assassinated. Again, as you mentioned, he was supposed to be here in Wilmington, a fact that many people from this community know. A lot of people outside of this area are not familiar with that fact, but they will know now. We're at Williston, now middle school. Then it was a high school when you attended. Barbara Kamara, tell me a little bit about just what it's like coming back to your old school and for this particular reason, honoring King.
You know, it's very refreshing coming back at this particular time because I think over 50 years there are a lot of people who don't know the history. And so having the city come together with the school system, with the broader community and engaging young people, that really excited me this morning because they are learning about history that happened right here where they are currently in school.
A good point. We're going to show you that story in a little bit about what we saw with the young people earlier today. Now let's talk about Dr. King's message. Now when you think about it, he was supposed to be here just a few days before. He was invited here to come and help with the civil rights issues that were happening here in Wilmington. But what's also sad that I've learned from Isla Speller over at the museum was that Dr. King, when he died and was assassinated, people had planned to come back to Williston at 3 o'clock to honor Dr. King and have a memorial, but the curfew was put in place by city leaders then that did not allow for them to gather. So this is kind of like, for some people, a real first-time recognition by the whole city of Dr. King's death, right?
Right, that is true. And I'm glad to see that there are a lot of people engaged. But this is just the beginning of what should happen as we move to the next 50 years, so that we better educate people, but also that we begin to work on those issues that Dr. King talked about. They were here 50 years ago, some are still here today.
And, you know, she's from this area, not to toot, I know you don't want to toot your own horn, but she's working as delegate over in Africa. She's worked so many years doing so many things to so many politicians in D.C. So you have an impressive resume. What can you tell the young people that are watching about what you can do if you live the dream that Dr. King sacrificed his life for?
The thing is, you have to do your best to be your best first. You have to also pay attention to what's happening with education, and you have to also be willing to be a risk taker and have courage. Dr. King had all of that. And as I have come along from Williston to the civil rights movement, you know, I found that if I didn't have courage, didn't take a risk, didn't have good character, I wasn't getting anywhere. So all of those things are so critical for our young people.
Wow, Barbara Kamara, thank you so much for that. Hope to hear from you later tonight at 11. Andrew's going to be talking to some of the great people that are here at Williston. Thank you again so much for this interview.
We are beginning today by remembering the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Across the country, people are honoring him on the 50th anniversary of his death, including right here in the Cape Fear. Amanda is live at Williston Middle School in Wilmington for an event to commemorate the life of the famed civil rights advocate. Amanda, tell us more about what's happening.
Brandy, it's hard to believe it's been 50 years since Dr. King's death, but here today, many people coming to Williston Middle School to pay their respects and to honor the man who meant so much to so many. Now, I want to show you just behind me, just some of the crowd as they're filling in. Doors opened at 5:30, and the program will begin at 6:30. They allowed a little singing to go on just a few moments ago. Choir, somewhat of a celebration. Again, we are honoring his life and his legacy. And although it's been 50 years, we got a chance to take a trip to a special museum. We're going to show you the story. Myself and Sarah Johnson, photojournalists, telling a little bit more about Dr. King, his legacy, and his significance to the city of Wilmington. Deep huddled in downtown Wilmington, the Burnett Eaton Museum is filled with memories.
And you found this picture in everyone's home.
Inside, Isla Speller surrounded by souvenirs, mementos, and newspaper clippings of the past, reflecting the moment in history that changed everything.
Martin King slain by a sniper.
Especially right here in the port city.
It was called the Holy Uprising, not only in Wilmington, but in other states as well. It was a very sad morning.
Just a few days before he was assassinated, the legendary civil rights leader was supposed to be at Williston.
He was scheduled to come to Wilmington prior to the sanitation strike. So he went to calm some of the rioting that was taking place, or rock throwing that was taking place in Memphis.
Isla says people here planned a memorial at Williston after his death, but were not given a chance to mourn Dr. King.
The mayor, the police department, they moved the curfew up to 3 o'clock so Wilmington did not get the opportunity to memorialize Dr. King.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
But Dr. King's dream lives on. 50 years later, we honor the civil rights legend who fought for racial equality and justice on the anniversary of his death.
Together on April the 4th, 2018, we now can come together and, mourn together, laugh together, and rejoice together.
Now, 50 years later, Dr. King is getting the honor and respect he deserves, and many across the country remembering the man, the father, husband, reverend, and civil rights activist, a man whose work continues on through those who remember above all his sacrifice.